Nancy I, and this is behind the scenes, behind the music, behind the lyrics, behind me talking about Marco Polo today. Hence the wet hair. No, it just happens to be. Wet hair, don't care, right? But I figured, I guess it's relative, so why not? Marco Polo. Marco Polo actually started as a poem, as a poet who then later discovered and felt confident in being able to sing. I was going around town rapping this thing left and right. It started as a poem that actually was a mechanism so that I could remember names. Not that I ever felt that they were very important, because I do somewhat feel like there's a lot of ego involved there, especially when I do see your soul. Truly, I feel your vibe, your aura, your heart inside. It's just how I work, so I don't really need a name to remember you. But the poem started as, I need to get better at this thing called a name, like numbers that gets lost inside of my brain, and I hate it because it's just part of this game that I'm not. I see your soul, not the thought of what your bank account holds, or who you know, or who you knew, or all that ego shit they talk about. I want to know, do you give back more than you've got? Which then later led on to Glow, of I don't care what you got, I want to know how you give. If you're really listening to evolutions of things. But I built upon it. This poem was based on, before I get ahead of myself, this poem was based on the fact that my grandmother, God rest her soul, rest in peace, thank you for being a woman that helped to create me, as my mother was a single mother, and there was a lot of time that I spent with my grandmother, and my grandmother was a big socialite in our small town, and she loved to take me around at the parties and the charities and the events and introduce me to people. And as she did, she was so eager in it that there would be moments where I was being introduced to someone, and while I'm in present moment trying to say hello and hear their name, and they're in present moment and shaking my hand the same, we both are realizing that my grandmother is looking to see who's next on the list that she's going to drag me over to shake their hand. So it really put like this crazy block in my head for a very long time. And even still now, like, especially if you're good looking, or I don't know, if I had a couple of drinks, I'm not gonna lie, like, names are hard for me. But don't think for a second that I don't see you, because I do. It's just not attached to this label, this box, this sometimes this thing called what can you do for me, especially in this industry, which I hate. And sometimes I actually purposely don't ask people what they do and what their last name is, because I want to truly get to know you without that subconscious coming in of like, well, how does this all connect? Anyways, I'm off track. So starting as a poem, it was written with this beautiful man that I met named Xavier Valdez, who I did see his soul, without doubt. Beautiful young man. And I asked him to come over one night, and within 5 minutes, we had written this sitting at my kitchen table. He began to strum. Perhaps he was just even warming up. I began to spit, that then found its way, as it does, the leaf into small streams, and then river and melody, and Marco Polo was born. And it's a song not just about remembering people's names, but it's about unrequited love. It's about isolation, as it was written during COVID. It's about this getting back to me and the self repairing of the wounded child in my past history. The realization that I was living in fear. Until then, fear was definitely ruling my life, and despite the justifications for said fear, it was not serving me to live in fear and isolation. And it certainly wasn't keeping me safe. It was just keeping me afraid and in isolation. So I, at that point in my life, had pushed away quite a few people, a lot of friends, and some loved ones that, just as the song says, in our childhood, I realized, and why I wanted to pay tribute to the game that we used to play as children. As we treaded this water with our eyes closed in the darkness, calling out for our friends, calling out for our loved ones, what it felt like, how cold that water and life could get. And so that's really, the bare bones of where that song came from. In knowing that love can win, in finding hope again, in trusting, being open with said boundaries. No fish out of water here, right? No cheating. Said boundaries would be set, but nonetheless, it was love that was going to get us through, get me through. Just as the song says in Numb, what would we do without love? What would we do without hope? What would we do if we all just shut down inside? Down our throat, up our nose, rabbit hole. What good does that do? Right? So Marco Polo is a spin and an evolution of that thought. Marco Polo, don't you quit. Marco Polo, don't sink, we have to swim. Marco, 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 Marco Polo. I know that love can win. So yeah. That's the behind the scenes, behind the lyrics, behind the music of it.